That is successful moose hunting.
So he finally shows himself, and I go, definitely 3 brow tine. Lucky day for us.
Some of the tools of the trade. Point of view video from the moose's standpoint. Once you have your moose down, you need to get ready to butcher it, and we're going to butcher it from behind to save all the meat perfectly. So you're going to need a good knife. These are good knives. You'll need a saw. These saws are not orange, so you have to be careful not to lose them. And then game bags and something to put on the ground to keep the meat nice and clean. And this is the appropriate color. Then you bring the appropriate number of game bags to take care of the job. With your knife. So this is a point of view video protecting the meat from the back. First, remove the skin by zipping down the back, and then both quarters around the joint. Hind quarter again, and behind the joint. Then you can remove the skin and start working on the quarters. With your knife, you start right down the back, right over and follow right along the midline of his neck, under the skin. Cutting from the inside of the skin results in less slicing of the hair, which dulls the knife and also gets more hair into the meat. Keep working all the way back. This is the 70A blade. Oh yeah. Lifting the hide and gently cutting the connective tissue separates the hide from the meat. On a caribou, you can do this by just pulling the skin off, but the attachments are firmer on a moose, especially back behind the skull. Front quarter here. Dan's working on the back quarter. Then we zip him down the side, cutting more from the skin side. A little further along, Dan's got the hind quarter almost exposed. This is the front quarter. Essentially want to undress both the front and the back legs all the way down to below the joint, and then bring it back underneath up to the edge of the belly. Good, down to the middle. Dan, what do you got in the hind leg there when you lift it up? All right, good. We got it right down to the knock, and we're checking in here on the front. We want to stay away from the esophagus. Go all the way down to the belly here. Nice. It's much easier to do a moose with two or more than one.
the winner.
Dan's going to lift this up. And now we protect, we go in. Decent amount of stuff in here can have guts or blood in it. So we want to stay away from that, but kind of honor the midline. Just like this. When bringing meat back from the field, Fish and Game wants to make sure we shot a male moose, and if so, we need to leave proof of sex on the animal. This is proof of sex here. These can be discarded once you're processing the meat after you get back out of the field. That's a pretty big piece. We'll leave that on the meat. So now we feel the midline, where the meat is attached to the bone or fascia. We start separating it here. And as we go, Dan starts feeling some of the resistance give. In and around here is where the tenderloin or iliopsoas muscle attaches. Here is the hip socket. That's the proof of sex and the proof of urine. When you get here, you sing, "You're in the money." That's kind of a urologist song. All the meat here on the top of the quarter is primo meat. So you want to be careful of it. Again, hugging close to the bone here. That's erector spiny group there, or sirloin. That's got pretty nice fat on it, Dan. Good choice of moose. All right, so that is now off. It's much easier with the second hunter lifting the quarter, especially the hind quarter, than trying to do it by yourself. Although having a rope next to a tree helps. So one of the tricks to the getting the moose in a nice clean bag. The moose quarters take fairly large bags, but king-sized pillowcases work very well for the smaller meat or can easily handle a caribou. It's helpful to prepare in advance brush so that the air can get under the meat after you get it off in the bags.
Yeah. What do you think? I think it's at least 100-pound quarter. We'll try and take.
Felt like it. Here, let's go down on the brisket. Here, let's go down on the brisket. To his sternum. In this area, you separate the coarse-grained brisket or pectoralis muscle from the sternum, and that starts your removal of the front quarter. Leave that on neck meat there. Good fat there. And entry wounds right up here. Probably gonna start with a lung shot. There may be significant blood in the lungs, and they may still drain out of veins that may be near the surface of the quarter. his entry there. Try and leave this on the quarter. There's a big hole. This is his nuchal cord that he uses to hold his head up with all that heavy weight. That's off. Second hunter is again very instrumental in removing the quarter, whether it's intact or whether it's actually been shot, and getting it onto the clean tarp. Then get it ready to get it rolled into another clean game bag. Lifting up on the bone helps slide it into the bag. Carry the quarter onto some brush with air underneath. Let me get this. Tenderloin. Dan is carefully separating out the the rector spiny group, which is the sirloin. You can go right down the backbone on the other side of that. It has sort of a triangular cross section. There.
Mac and cheese tonight?
Ooh. Ooh, man. There's that nuchal ligament. There's a out. This might be an out hole. Maybe it's in hole.
Yeah, that came out. I shot him doing the second shot, and I think it buried in that front shoulder. It was wonky. So I think we got some meat lost in that front shoulder that we just took off. What the friends would say, there was definitely some ligamentous instability in that joint. But I didn't shoot either hindquarters.
Oh, you did.
That's a bonus.
You can come all the way up here. Here's the end of the sirloin. It's good not to get too close to each other. Did you go along the back?
I haven't done this
The backbone?
yet.
Oh, okay.
So it should just peel off pretty much.
Good. The neck has a lot of connective tissue. Nice. Okay, a little more neck. See if it's hard to see for you to see behind this antler, then you know what it's like for me. No. Here's the entry. Carefully separating out the neck meat from the esophagus, from the trachea, from the jugular vein up to the edge of the jaw and the ear, and finding the meat attached to the facets of the spine, and separating them from each one of the spinous processes. The neck meat becomes somewhat amorphous, and it's very helpful to have an assistant grab the meat to keep it from falling and getting dirty. As you get over the top, you then can separate it from the back of the skull, the spinous processes of the cervical vertebrae, and finally separate it from the nuchal cord. So there's the neck. Roll it this way. If you go behind, drag it this way. Yeah. Tenderloin is the iliopsoas muscle. It's going to be right behind here, but the gut is right there. I'm going to carefully separate this off. Very close. Retroperitoneal removal of the iliopsoas muscle when field dressing from the back is a crux move. You see this muscle here. as you're carefully dissecting this aspect of the tenderloin, remember where it was attached to the anterior medial aspect of the hindquarter when we remove the hindquarter just in front of the hip socket.
Gut cavities here. This gives us access. There's nerves that come out across this. Fingers are close to where we're cutting, but trying to stay away from that. Stay right up against.
When field dressing an animal at night, or that you've shot late in the afternoon or evening, it's very helpful to have a nicely directed flashlight or headlamp.
Kind of a dark hole in here, but it has firm attachments up against the spine, but loose attachments up against the gut. Here's another nerve. If you do your animal from the front, this ends up being accessible from the inside once the rest of the guts are pulled out. When you do it from the back like we're doing, you got to sneak in on the iliopsoas like this.
If the animal has been laying for a long time, and particularly with caribou with their very active gut process with live protozoa helping them digest lichen, you have to get to the iliopsoas early or else the gut cavity will bulge. This reminds you of Adam's rib and the origin of Eve, or the moose's version of Eve.
There is the tenderloin.
Now you could do the ribs on this side, or you can flip the hide back over the initial side and then get ready to flip the moose over. When you're flipping a moose, this is quite difficult, and the antlers can get in the way, but if you can get the head already partly rotated, then get your whole body underneath the quarters, and if the front quarter has been shot, as in this moose, it's not as easy of a fulcrum to get it to rotate. But with two active hunters, it is possible to flip the moose over, or you can use ropes.
Oh, that was easy. Yeah, I hit him kind of high.
Continue to make careful use of your clean tarp or poncho to keep the meat clean.
Ready for a hind quarter?
Okay, hind quarter number 2.
Hind quarter number 2.
Once again, it's a little easier to find the midline because you've been there on the opposite side. So carefully work from the midline, find the hip socket right in here, go on the gluteus on the back end and the top end of the quadriceps where it's attached to the iliac crest on the front and the spine. Again, your assistant can help you lift and separate and move the meat all the way onto the clean tarp. Then roll it back into the bag, and ideally you get it partly on the bag and then lift the meat up and drop it in.
One front quarter left.
Once both quarters, the back strap and the iliopsoas and neck are off, then it's time to get the ribs. You can do on either side. Split down parallel to the ribs with a knife, and then a saw or a knife can be used to separate from the sternum and from the spine. The rib cage, it's possible to separate these joints with a knife carefully and then bend back.
Yeah, so if you can just cut down onto that, that'd be great.
For a European mount, you take the whole skull, but it's lighter and simpler to cut off and go right above the eyes and around the brain.
Removing the horns is always a task.
When you're done, it's really nice to have some wipes. Here's the start. About 2 o'clock. How long did that take? Praise the Lord.
Yep, that was awesome. Came out of nowhere. Fantastic.